As the Holy Quran
what I was suggesting, you're absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith, and you're absolutely right that that has not come my Christian faith. And well, what I'm saying is he hasn't suggested that I'm a Muslim.
And moreover, given the increasing diversity of America's populations, the dangers of sectarianism are greater than ever. Whatever we once were, we are no longer a Christian nation, at least not just. We are also a Jewish nation, a Muslim nation, and a Buddhist nation, and a Hindu nation, and a nation of non-believers. And even if we did have only Christians in our midst, if we expelled every non-Christian from the United States of America, whose Christianity would we teach in the schools? Would it be James Dobson's or Al Sharpton's? Which passages of Scripture should guide our public policy? Should we go with Leviticus, which suggests slavery is okay, and that eating shellfish is an abomination? Or we could go with Deuteronomy, which suggests stoning your child if he strays from the faith? Or should we just stick to the Sermon on the Mount, a passage that is so radical that it's doubtful that our own Defense Department would survive its application? So before we get carried away, let's read our Bibles now. Folks haven't been reading their Bible. Democracy demands that the religiously motivated translate their concerns into universal rather than religion-specific values. What do I mean by this? It requires that their proposals be subject to argument and amenable to reason. Now, I may be opposed to abortion for religious reasons, to take one example, but if I seek to pass a law banning the practice, I can't simply point to the teachings of my church or evoke God's will. I have to explain why abortion violates some principle that is accessible to people of all faiths, including those with no faith at all. Now, this is going to be difficult for some who believe in the inerrancy of the Bible, as many evangelicals do. But in a pluralistic society, we have no choice. Politics depends on our ability to persuade each other of common aims based on a common reality. It involves compromise, the art of what's possible. And at some fundamental level, religion doesn't allow for compromise. It's the art of the impossible. If God's spoken, then followers are expected to live up to God's edicts, regardless of the consequences. Now, to base one's own life on such uncompromising commitments may be sublime, but to base our policy making on such commitments would be a dangerous thing. And if you doubt that, let me just give you an example. We all know the story of Abraham and Isaac. Abraham's ordered by God to offer up his only son. Without argument, he takes Isaac up to the mountaintop, he binds them to the altar, raises his knife, prepares to act as God commanded. Now, we know things worked out. You know, God sends down angel to intercede at the very last minute. Abraham passes God's test of devotion. But it's fair to say that if any of us leaving this church saw Abraham on the roof of a building raising his knife, we would, at the very least, call the police and expect the Department of Children and Family Services to take Isaac away from Abraham. No matter how religious they may be or may not be, people are tired of seeing faith used as a tool of attack.
I have known Islam on 3 continents before coming to the region where it was first revealed. That experience guides my conviction.
Good morning. The massacre of Christians at that university in Kenya. Again, not coming up in the remarks, but he did have this to say just a moment ago. Drop in here.
On Easter, I do reflect on the fact that as a Christian, I am supposed to love. And I have to say that sometimes when I listen to less than loving expressions by Christians, I get concerned. But that's a topic for another day. Where there is injustice, I was about to veer off. I'm pulling it back.
Interesting moment there. Just moments ago at the prayer breakfast, Steve Hayes is senior writer for the Weekly Standard and a Fox News contributor. Those comments may get some attention today, Steve, so we thought we'd play them for everybody and start with your reaction.
Well, it was interesting that the president decided to pull back and not expand on what he had said there. But I think, you know, it's odd, as you noted, that the president didn't take this occasion to point out the recent slaughter of Christians in Kenya, the problems with targeting Christians around the world, but instead decided to sort of suggest that his main problem at this point is Christians saying things that aren't loving. Just an odd choice, odd timing, really sort of not a dissonant note from the president there.
Reverend Franklin Graham has made some comments on several occasions as recently as 3 weeks ago, really questioning the faith, if you will, of the president. He said the president has told him that he's a Christian, but he basically said that going to church does not make you a Christian. But the president is on record as saying that he walked down that aisle, he gave his life to Christ. So what do you say to folks like Reverend Graham, who frankly are muddying the water, but other people who are questioning the Christianity of this president?
I find it insulting. We didn't question the Christianity of President Bush when he said he accepted Christ, and I'm disappointed in Reverend Franklin Graham in that regard. I wish he had the diplomacy of his father, who brought the gospel to people without being nuanced by politics, because when you do those things, you offend people that you're actually called to save and to serve. And I would hope that he would see the rationale in apologizing for such statements, because if the president's faith is suspect, then all of our faiths are suspect, because the Bible is quite clear about what it takes to be saved, and the president has been quite open about his accepting Christ and him openly confessing it before men. And if it's good enough for the Bible, it ought to be good enough for the rest of us.
I certainly agree with you on that.
no need to ask.